particularly tier 2, tier 3 entrepreneurs, very conservative.
Yeah. Okay.
I will just give you an example. Suppose we want to give a grant of 10 lakh rupees to build a prototype. They want to take only, say, 6 lakh 21 rupees.
Okay.
So because
Yeah.
because of their upbringing, because of this, I
Right.
think that's
Right.
the
Right.
shift that is
Right.
required when you want to get invested and grow fast. Yes.
Hey everyone, this is Prashant and I'll be your host for the VC10X podcast. And today we have Aravind Chinchure with us. Aravind is an author, a physicist, and a board member at Deshpande Startups. He holds a PhD in physics and has an experience spanning 25 years in R&D, innovation, intellectual property, startup venture investment policy, social development, and teaching. In this episode, we talk about how they are promoting entrepreneurship in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in India at Deshpande Startups, the impact and use case of AI, the dark side of artificial intelligence, how India can become a developed nation by 2047, Arvind's new book called The New Age Organization. What's the essential driver of a country's success, and so much more. So, without wasting any time, let's dive straight in. Hey, Aravind, so good to have you on the VC10X podcast. How are you doing?
Doing great, Prashant. Let me first commend and compliment you for phenomenally successful your podcast, which brings very deeper insights and finer nuances when it comes to investments and such a big support to the entrepreneurs today. So thank you. It's a privilege and honor to be part of your podcast.
Likewise, sir. It's a
Thank
pleasure and honor for us as well to have you on the show. You're one of the most esteemed guests we have hosted on the show. So thank you for coming on. And I know that it would be a really long episode if we just even talk about
you.
what you have done and your introduction. So can you just briefly tell us about yourself and what you have done so
Yes.
we set a background for the conversation? Yeah.
So, as a child, I wanted to become a scientist. I fulfilled that dream. I became a physicist. But after becoming physicist, my life turned in a very different path. Traditionally, Prashant, when you become a scientist, you end up either doing a research and becoming a scientist abroad or esteemed institute in India. But in my case, I said, let me explore various dimensions of science and be going beyond science. So I went into technology. I worked for G Global Research. Then I said, let me explore startups. I did my first startup in 2003 after immediately my stint at GE. 1.5 year in startup, we exited. Then I said, let me go back to the multinational company Honeywell. From Honeywell, I went on to work with Reliance Industries, reporting to board of directors. After this, life exploded. I went into policy. I started new programs in innovation entrepreneurship in various institutions. I started doing research with the global universities. I became a part of a World Bank advisory to support neighboring nations and so on. So let me share what it means to our viewers. Uh,
Yeah.
this gave me a very broad perspective, Prashant. So when I now work with individuals or institutions, I can relate to them directly. That's something which is very important, and that leads to the better outcomes and greater value creations and impact. So that's briefly you know my story.
Absolutely. That's very awesome. There are so many things we can dig into here, but since
Yes.
this podcast is mostly focused on investing, so I'd like to learn when you did your first startup in 2003,
Yes.
what was that startup about and how did you exit so soon in I think 1.5 years?
Yes, it's very interesting. 2003 was quite early in India to be part of a startup, and particularly someone who did his PhD in Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, went abroad and worked for a GE, which is one of the iconic large company. But I heard some of the founders of Infosys. The kind of an excitement and impact one can create to be part of a startup. That's something which triggered my thought to explore entrepreneurship. And second one is at that time when I was at GE. Earlier, I had a lot of scientific publications in reputed journals, but when I entered into corporate world, it was all about patents. And patents was very new to India, new for us. And I said, this is the best area because as a nation, we were at the beginning of this journey to become possibly a hub for intellectual property. And I started making cold calls to some of the law firms to understand, and ended up connecting to Leon Steinberg, who was in US, and he said, I'm starting a new company, and would you like to join as a co-founding team? But he said that it will be in Noida, in sector 2, in a basement, not in a garage. So this startup was on intellectual property services. Some of our clients were Microsoft and many other large corporations in US, and and we grew up so fast, Prashant. We were five as a part of a team, and the kind of work we were doing. Many large corporates were very happy with that, and we were asked to expand, so I could take that lead and hire people and train them so that we can fulfill the demands. And then one European company looked at us the way we were growing, and they were very large services company, and they had multiple products, so they acquired us in just 1.5 years. So that's a beautiful story to share. You begin in 2003, and by
Right.
2005 you are yeah, acquired.
Absolutely. That's an amazing story. And now you're helping other startups and like building the
Yes.
ecosystem via Deshpande Startups, which is one of the
Yes.
largest startup incubators in India. So, can you tell us more about what you're doing there and how that's helping bring up the ecosystem?
This is a very transformational experience to all of us around the world, Prashant. Visionaries, Dr. Jayashree and Dr. Gururaj Deshpande, they said that after becoming very successful serial entrepreneurs, investors, they said now they need to do something for the world and for the society. So they started this Deshpande Foundation in US in 1996 or so, and with a mission. The mission was, how can Deshpande Foundation support and build sustainable and scalable enterprises which can deliver economic and social impact. And that journey led to found to entity in Hubli, and this was around 2007 or so. Dr. Deshpande and Dr. Jayashree Deshpande decided to set up something which existed in US, in Boston. So the first thing was the journey was about investing in or giving a grants to social enterprises. So Deshpande Foundation gave a grant to 60 plus social entrepreneurs as well as NGOs to scale their impact. And later, after a few years, we decided to be implementing entity. And as a part of this, Deshpande Startups was created in 2016 as a independent entity with 7 acre of space, 1 lakh square foot of a building, state of the art labs, mechanical lab, electrical and electronics lab, manufacturing capability, 3D printing, and so on. The whole agenda was, how do we support entrepreneurs from tier 2 and tier 3? It's very interesting, Prashant, why this is important, because half of entrepreneurs today in India, they come from tier 2, tier 3. The question is where they can go. Not everyone from tier to tier 3 can migrate and adopt to ecosystems like Bangalore. So there was necessary to create a ecosystem in a tier 2 tier 3 a place like Hubli, which is 400 kilometers away or northwest of Bangalore. And today I'm so happy and so proud to tell you and share with you that we could support and nurture 450 startups, 100 plus products, and some of the products are first to the world products, 100 plus patents, and so on and so on. So that's something which is so transformational. And just to conclude on this, what it means to building startup ecosystem in India. If you look at a Western or say US model of ecosystem, always in that ecosystem at the center is a university. Like for example, in Silicon Valley, Stanford is the epicenter of the ecosystem. Everything goes around. But if you observe, Prashant, here in India, the the epicenter or center of ecosystem is either foundations or very successful entrepreneurs around which the whole ecosystem builds. And today, Hubli is so vibrant ecosystem for startups. Maybe next time we should do a podcast only on startups in Hubli, a small town.
Absolutely, that's an amazing initiative that you have taken up to bring up the ecosystem even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, because India being a very vast country and there is huge
Yes.
population, right? We cannot just focus on tier 1. There is incredible talent in even tier 2, tier 3, and I'm glad that you're supporting them. Uh, and now let's also talk about a subject that you're very interested in, and
Mhm.
that is the impact of AI on startups.
Yes. Wow. This has been a big story of 2023, when Gen AI and particularly Chat GPT came into the existence in our life. World changed. In fact, the whole conversation and discourse is this version of AI is something similar to internet or something similar to telephone, and that's what Bill Gates keeps talking about. This was not anticipated. Of course, all of us we thought that AI will grow, but not at this kind of a outcome and output that one can expect from Gen AI. Now, this has opened up tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurs. Just I will give you a couple of statistics. If I look at YC cohort, summer 2023, I guess there were 229 startups as a part of this cohort, and 139 startups were focused on AI, more than
Right.
50%. 40 billion of investment VC dollars went in the first half of 2023, which is a quarter of overall investment dollars in the world. Next, five unicorns came out in the first half of this 2023. So that but if I look at from investors' perspective, of course there is a lot of excitement or optimism, but also there is a cautiousness. It's a both. You see this excitement and cautiousness when investing in AI startup. Now the question is why this is happening. So again, let me look at some data points. Ernst and Young says that this is such a game changer technology. The economic impact of this technology is around $6.5 trillion. It's a huge. McKinsey came out with a report, and it says the impact could be somewhere between $2.6 trillion to $4.5 trillion, which is huge. Now I looked at large companies like ENY investing 1.1 plus billion dollars, and also they want to train their entire 400,000 employees. Look at what's happening now. This is something which is very exciting to see that when we have so much of demand and potential of this particular technology, and then the next trend for this is now I can get as an entrepreneur open source models like Llama, for example, and there are many such open source models that are accessible, and now I can build several applications on the top. So now, for example, all of us
Right.
will have our own personal assistant, coach, trainer, look at whatever therapist, counselor, and so on. And similarly, every student will have AI tutor, and many other things. So the potential is very huge in building the applications. And if I look at Indian perspective, Prashant, very big thing that I have seen this year is this data protection policy, which is called Digital Personal Data Protection Bill that has been approved in the Parliament, which will give access to startups and entrepreneurs the aggregated data. And then comes in a digital stack, we already have Aadhaar identity layer, we have UPI financial layer, and there is a new layer that is being built, which is called DEPA. And DEPA is Data Empowerment and Protection Architecture. And that is going to bring tremendous opportunity and change in Indian startup ecosystem. So overall, I see that there's a lot of hope, a lot of opportunity for Indian startups and even globally. And this is the best time for. In fact, one of the top investors says that possibly AI can be the next trillion-dollar company incoming. So that's
Right.
what is happening in AI today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what you mentioned is the positive side of AI, and it
Yes,
looks very exciting, right? But there is also a dark side,
damn dark.
which
Yes,
gets discussed, wherein we say that, okay, is AI going to replace jobs? You know. So
yes,
can you throw more light on
yes.
that aspect and how AI can impact humans in general?
Yes. See, if I look at the discourse has two dimensions. The one dimension is transformational power of AI, which is good for the humanity. The second part is the threats to the humanity. And believe me, this AI can create so much risk to the humans if it is not, for example, regulated or contained. For example, I mean, I was just listening to reading a news article where it says just $400 are enough to create a wrong information engine. Means this is enough to create fake news and many other things. Just look at the kind of a risk that exists in a large infrastructure, whether it's electric grids and so on. And if it goes into the hands of a wrong people, just imagine what it can do. Apart from the risk associated with the inequality, social inequality. For example, some people have an access, some people may not have an access, and that will be a deep and challenge to the world. How do we look at this equality? And particularly if I look at global south versus the most developed nations, so how do we handle these kind of social inequalities, biases that exist in the models? And I can go on talking about this, and some of the best brains and most global influencers are talking about this. And it's a good discourse that we are aware of what could go wrong, and so that we can have the right kind of a protection and a plan. And for me, Prashant, this is also an opportunity for entrepreneurs. How do I ensure that whether I'm talking and getting too intimate with a AI bot, or am I talking to the humans? And that itself can be a very big help to individuals. And you are right that there are so many dangers associated with AI, and we as humanity need to see that it is properly contained and regulated.
Yes, absolutely. That needs to be taken care of. And one more thing that you've worked on is a thesis on how India can become a developed nation by
Yes.
2047, right? So, can you tell us more about it and
Yes.
a glimpse of that thesis?
Correct. So, if you look at the kind of a conversation that we are having as a nation, uh, we are very aspirational society. We want to see that by 2047, when we reach 100 years of our independence, and possibly, I think the aspiration is that we will turn a very developed nation, and the economy can be in the range of 30 to 40 trillion dollars. Now the question is, now it's a 10 times of the current GDP that we are talking, which is a big leap that we have to take. Now, what has changed in the past versus today? Let me share a couple of pointers for this. The first is the economic development of any nation, and particularly in the past say 300 years or 250 years has been linked to industrial revolution. So like 1780 was the first industrial revolution driven by steam engine. So that happened in UK. And at that time, India was fighting a war, a battle which is called Plassey's battle, and so on. So the second industrial revolution happened because of the electricity and assembly line sometime in 1870, 100 years from there. Of course, India was denied to be part of that second industrial revolution. And come to third industrial revolution that happened in 1960s and 70s, which is because of the internet. And India could take part of that pie of economic development. And therefore you see whatever development that you see in India, and today we are having this kind of a conversation, is because India became, and there was economic progress. Now we are in fourth industrial revolution. And in the fourth industrial revolution, which began uh, like 2013, the discussion started, and 2015, 2016, it became abundantly clear that we are into the fourth industrial revolution. And in the fourth industrial revolution, this is the first time in India we have all the resources, we have infrastructure, we have technology, and we also have um, um, a talent. So this is the first time resources, talent, technology, everything is converging. And if that comes on the top, now I see that the kind of a entrepreneurial nation that we are growing. So that gives me a lot of hope and belief that in the fourth industrial revolution, we will lead in the economic and social development and progress. So that's something which is I mean, looks very optimistic for me when I look around, and see the kind of a development that is happening. So this is the fourth industrial revolution. This is the best time for India, and it's an opportunity of a century. We have a demographic dividend, the youth of India, and entrepreneurialness and entrepreneurship in India, and large companies aspiring to create something big. And I think looks like things are converging. So let's hope, and let's together we make
Yeah.
sure that we go on that path of being a developed nation.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you on that. And we are all together working towards that goal. And you also have a book that's come out, which is called The New Age
Yes.
Organization, which details into how the New Age organization should function. So, can you give us a view into that as well?
So, Prashant, it was COVID time. In fact, I had a dream to write a book, but never had a time because of all my engagements with multiple institutions. So, COVID was the best time to think, reflect, contemplate, and write something which is impactful, not just write a book for the sake of writing a book. So, we were discussing about fourth industrial revolution, and look at what fourth industrial revolution is going to make an impact to enterprises, as well as disrupt the entire industry. And the changes are so fast. Like earlier, we knew that technology is exponentially growing, or most of the technologies were growing exponentially. All of us, we knew. But what changed in the last decade or so is the first time technology started converging, and that convergence of technology is creating very transformational forces or transformational changes in everything that we do. That is disrupting every industry. Doesn't matter whether you are in India or globally. That's something which is a big disruption. Then I said, what is that big disruption that is going to happen and is happening is sustainability. So now all of us, we are talking about ESG. Now even customers and market is demanding that companies need to be sustainable. So, and then there are other possible impacts from economic shift, demographic shifts, and geopolitical challenges. So my fundamental question was, if this is what is going to impact because of the rapid disruptions and changes and shifts, how as an organization we should be prepared and deal and navigate these disruptions in the fourth industrial revolution. So I said, what kind of a organizational design one should have, what kind of a leadership that we want to create, and what kind of a talent that we want to build. So this is a book that gives the framework to organizations and leadership. How do you navigate this rapid disruption, how to be agile, responsive, and so on. So that's the book, about how do we build new age organization so that we continuously grow and sustain that growth.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
amazing. I'll make sure to put the link to the book in the show notes
Yes,
below
please.
so that and listeners can go and check the book out there. And one more thing I would like to ask you is, what do you think are the essential drivers for a country's success?
Let me look at, since we are discussing about India and India's growth and becoming developed nations. So um, let me give a simple statistics. What can bring change to nation and success of a nation. So I was in another podcast and I gave these numbers. I'm a big believer of demographic strength that we have, the youth of this particular nation. So I was saying, I mean, if you look at, we are 1.4 billion people, and half of them, 700 million people, are youths below the age of 25 years. And I'm saying that take, say, 10% of that, which is 70 uh, million,
Yeah, 70 million.
say 70 million people, and 70 million is the population of a UK, and
Yeah,
10% of, I'm saying take 1% of that 10%, or say
right.
1% of 700, which is a
7 million.
7 million. And if these 7 million youth of India become entrepreneurial, and out of 7
Right,
million, 1 million, which is 0.17% of the youth, become
right,
entrepreneurs,
right,
India will change, world will change. Now, look at other, and I will justify this, give some example why I'm saying
right.
this. So one
Absolutely.
is this, this youth of India. The second one is, which is we have not tapped, that is women. Half of, again, is a
Right.
is a women. And now I'm seeing, I always believe that women are born entrepreneurial. So, and if we can
Yeah.
just support them to become an entrepreneur, world will change. Now, how do I justify this? Why I'm saying this. I will give you, in August, I attended two events. The first event was in Indian Institute of Science, Education, Research, which is ICER, has an incubation sector center, which is called AIC Seed, and it was students entrepreneurship in residence pitches, and there was a, you know very eminent jury. I was a keynote speaker. Prashant, I was so impressed with the students who are in 16, 17 years old to say 20-year-old or less than 20 years old. Now they have taken a challenge to create entrepreneur, solutions. Like, for example, can we have a quantum technologies for a, say, a drug discovery? Can you believe kids are talking about quantum technologies to develop faster, quicker drugs? I saw another student, young student, talking about biological route to hydrogen. Today, hydrogen is such an important for the world, and if there is a student who is going to crack this, then I saw two students talking about detecting and diagnosis of dengue and malaria. Can you believe this? I can
Amazing.
go on talking. Then, after a week, I was a jury to Thai Global Pune's women pitch competition, and I was blown. The kind of challenges women entrepreneurs are taking. For example, two women, they said, we will have a diagnostic tool for lung cancer. Believe me, Prashant, in the world, people are investing billions and billions of dollars to do this. And here is a woman, you know, who wants to do this in a simple. Another
Right.
lady, she said, we will do detection of a breast cancer using breath. Can you believe this? And she has a solution. It is very difficult to believe. Then
Amazing.
I looked at another, the winner, who has a drone for a inspection in the manufacturing plants with several clients, paying
Right.
that solution. And in Deshpande Startup, we have two, youth, Navjeet and Jagat. So
Right.
they come from a Sahyadri small college in Manipal, but they had a dream to create a one of the best headphones in the world. And today they
Right.
have built successfully the best headphone possibly. I'm saying best on the planet. 50 countries have done the pre-order a few months back
Okay.
and waiting for last few months to get that headphone. And if I look at all these things, you know, so and many other things that are changing, but I would say that this is something which is very, very, I would say, impressive to see the way youth and women. And I always believed that India has seen three entrepreneurial waves, startup waves, and the fourth wave of entrepreneurship in India will be driven by youth and women. Believe me,
Yeah.
India. So we will
Yeah.
be in an entirely different, yeah, world.
Totally agree with you. And I think I need to change my headphones now. I'll need to
Absolutely.
contact you to get those headphones. Awesome. So this is amazing. And I would like to get your view. I believe
Hmm.
the startups that you are seeing uh, are very different from
Yes.
what the startups that are built in metros like Bangalore and Delhi, right?
Yes.
So what's that difference? I'd like
The
to
big
understand.
difference, Prashant, is these startups or founders or entrepreneurs, uh, they want to pick up the local real problem. It is not about a me too kind of a idea.
Right.
Just
Right.
because there's a model that has been successful in other part of the world, I bring it, customize and deploy. That's something which is really, really big difference. Second is that they are taking very big, large, mega challenges, uh, which is very
Right.
different, right?
Right.
And the solutions that they are creating using the deep technology, which is
Right.
very, very unique, and they are very innovative and creative because they come from a, no legacy or no past background of that things happen in a certain way. I think that's
Absolutely.
something which is very important. Second is the ecosystem that is getting built up. So like, Deshpande, it's see Deshpande Startups. So anyone, whether anyone wants to become an entrepreneur, or already has an idea, or has a product and solution and traction, they can join us in our ecosystem, and we will support. And and that's something which is phenomenal. And of course, I'm not talking about Pune, Bangalore, which are like hubs, for entrepreneurs. So
Yeah. This amazing work that you're doing there. And to like end this with, what is your biggest learning investing in startups over the years?
see, one big learning, Prashant, is that startups somehow, because they are first time entrepreneurs, and sometimes managing all compliances is very challenging. So when as an investor, you start very simple, first stage of due diligence, you see the gaps. And if you go deeper,
Right.
there are so many things startups need to be doing it to become investable, not just because they have innovative product, there's a big market. So I think that is something, as an entrepreneur, as a startup, you should start right at the beginning, meet all the compliances, regulations, all the systems and processes that is required to become investable. And many times I have seen that entrepreneurs having big idea don't get investment just because they have messed up somewhere in this. I think that's something which is what I have experienced in the
Yes.
last 15 years, yeah, of my experience.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. And I think that's more of a thing that needs to be focused on in tier 2, tier 3 cities,
Yes,
because these people are actually building to solve problems, right? They
problems.
are not focused on getting investment. They don't want those billion-dollar valuations. They're not thinking about that.
That's true.
They're focused on solving problems, right? So
Yes,
it is upon us, people like us who are aware, to like get those people to follow all those things and get them in
yes.
the right place and get them ready for investment as well, right? So I'm
And if you allow
glad.
me, the
Sure.
second one
Yeah.
is particularly tier two, tier three entrepreneurs, very,
Yeah.
very conservative.
Yeah. Okay.
I will just give you an example. Suppose we want to give a grant of 10 lakh rupees to build a prototype. They want to take only, say, 6 lakh 21 rupees.
Okay.
So because
Yeah.
because of their upbringing, because of this, I
Right.
think that's
Right.
the
Right.
shift that is
Right.
required when you want to get invested and grow fast. Yes,
Absolutely. I think there is a complete mindset shift that's required
yes, required.
for them to like build venture scale startups,
Yes,
because investors are looking for something else. They're looking for
yes.
you to solve problems, important
Mhm.
problems. Obviously, that's one thing. But then they're also looking that you build large solutions that can be scaled throughout the
Absolutely.
world
Mhm.
potentially, so that they get large returns. Awesome. So I believe that you're helping these companies do that
Yes,
through Deshpande Startups, and I think we need more such initiatives throughout the country to get these entrepreneurs the support
yes.
they need and training they need. Right. Thanks so much for coming on, Aravind, and enlightening us on what's happening on the other side of India that isn't
Mhm.
brought to light that much, but it's also doing very well and has great potential. Thanks so much for coming on, and
So,
I wish you all the best.
thank you very much having me, and also, uh, I feel that I'm representing half of the entrepreneurs from tier to tier three,
Right.
and their needs and voice and possibilities are being communicated through your podcast. And thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored.